I don't have tens of thousands of followers. I didn't need to do that in order to build this really successful business, because in the last 6 months, I've now gotten a 90-to-1 return on ad spend, when in the past 5 years before that, it was a 2.4 ROAS. That's insane. If I'm going to put in $1 and get 90, I will do that all day long. And in February, with a $3,000 ad budget, we brought in $200,000.
In this episode of the Digital Trailblazer podcast, we're speaking with Carrie Lupoli, who's going to teach us how she built a multiple seven-figure nutrition coaching business with low-budget ads. So stay tuned.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now let's get to it with today's guest.
Welcome, everybody. I am Todd Getz, your host of the Digital Trailblazer podcast. And with me today is Carrie Lupoli. Carrie, welcome. Can you just give us a quick introduction, tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Carrie, and I am a nutritionist, a behavior specialist. I was a former behavior specialist for more than 25 years. And when I finally got a hold of my health by doing everything the diet industry told me not to do, doing exactly the opposite, is when I was realizing just how problematic so much of the information we had been learning was. And so I made it my mission, truly, to really teach the last nutritional advice people have ever needed, especially women. 85% of women have disordered eating and thinking about their bodies and food, and I was absolutely one of them. I was raising my kids to have that same disordered mindset without even realizing it. And so my team and I were really, truly passionate about helping women to understand that their purpose is not a number in the scale, but in order to serve their actual purpose, they have to be the healthiest version of themselves. And what I learned on that journey, after being a behavior specialist for so long, is that teaching people how to eat was actually the easy part. It was the thing that people were most confused about, but yet actually that was the easy part. And it was teaching them how to change their behaviors, their mindsets, their lifestyles in a way that was conducive to being the healthiest version of themselves that I really needed to tap into.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think so many people have, who start coaching businesses, they have a very similar journey of seeing the problem and not really getting results with the things that they're being told to try. And then so it's a lot of trial and error, but eventually you find that one thing that works and you want to share that with the whole world. And so you start a coaching business. And I think a lot of people have seen that graph, that up and down, like here's how entrepreneurship goes. And it's like, oh, I'm doing great. I'm going to do awesome. And then it's a sharp turn down. It's like, oh, I'm going to fail. This is never going to work. And then it's up and it's like, oh, I'm going to be rich. And then it goes down. Oh, I'm going to lose my house. It's like this journey, right? And I think you kind of had a lot of similar experiences of other entrepreneurs of that up and down journey. And so tell me this, when you launched your business, what are some of the things that you tried to get your business off the ground?
Yeah, so I have been doing this for more than 10 years. And I remember just before I started, I was talking to people who I thought knew something about technology and about online businesses. I had no idea what they knew. I just thought they knew more than me. And I remember saying, you know how you go to a website and you enter in your email and like you get something in your inbox? I want to do that. That was literally the level of what I knew. And I learned, okay, that is a funnel and an opt-in. And so I really started at a dream without any real knowledge about how to make that dream a reality. And so, yeah, I mean, the trial and error, the up and down, the roller coaster was real. And like many coaches, I was working a full-time job while I was trying to build this side hustle. And so I was doing the things that I think people told me to do and trying to get organic leads. And I did that for years and years and years. And while I'd say on paper it looked like I had served hundreds of clients, my message was kind of getting out there, but the amount of work I had to do to get in front of people, it was overcoming my life. And I was like, I just don't know if this is worth it. Yet there was this fire burning inside of me that said, like, I know I'm doing something different and helping people in a way that is necessary. It was like I knew I was supposed to be doing this, but the grind is so real. I can build a funnel now, I can build websites, I can do all of that. But it was when I started doing paid ads that I realized, okay, I can get in front of a lot more people. But then there's a roller coaster in that. And I almost like lost the house. And now I've really, over the years, I've figured out, okay, here's a formula for paid ads that actually allows you to put the gasoline on the work and the grind without worrying about your mortgage.
And with the organic content, I feel a lot of people have that same frustration of just constantly pumping out content and working on the quality, and you're putting out your best stuff and just nobody sees it. I mean, I know people that have been on YouTube for 5, 6, 7 years, and they create some amazing content. It's professionally edited. They're putting so much work into it, and they're still stuck at 500 to 700 views per video. And it's just grinding every single day to do that. Multiple times a week they're putting out videos, and they're just stuck there because they're just, for whatever reason, not hitting the algorithm. And Leah says this, my wife, is that basing your business plan on planning to go viral is like trying to plan your retirement on winning the lottery.
Yes. Yes.
It might happen. You should still do the work, right? You should still buy the lottery ticket, but don't base your entire business on the hopes of going viral, because it may or may not happen and probably won't.
Yeah. Well, that was my whole thing about hiring a social media team. I do have a social media team, and it's important. It feels like this necessary expense, but it was like, unless I had that viral post, like, was it really worth it? And like the time and energy. And I coach now and certify and coach health pros, nutritionists, dietitians, and personal trainers to be able to implement kind of the strategy that I use with my clients in terms of the behavioral and the mindset, as well as the nutrition. And I see them starting off and all their focus is on social media or really working to try to get that viral post. And I'm like, oh, okay. When they come to me, I'm like, we've got a whole different way that we can do this. And that's where paid ads can actually be our very, very, very best friend. I almost think it's like, we all think we have to wait until we get to a certain point before we can do that because we hear horror stories. And I train my coaches now to do it right from the start.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, and you're familiar with Alex Hormozy, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I feel like he's my best friend, but he doesn't know it.
Yeah, well, he had a video out there where it was something along the lines of, just because it's organic doesn't mean it's free. And he was describing how much it costs him to produce his organic content every month. Obviously, he's got one of the biggest businesses in the world. But for him, I think he says he spends somewhere between $30,000 and $70,000 a month creating his content for YouTube and whatever else. And also all the work that goes into it. It's not just the cost of hiring an editor and all that stuff. It's the time it takes. And if you're just a solopreneur and you're putting all that time into it, it's costly, right? Time is money.
Yeah. Well, let's even talk about the solopreneur, because that's, what I was for many years, and in some ways still am. Feel like I have a team of 40, but I still feel like, no one owns it like I do. And I remember Brendan Bouchard at an event said, stop blaming other people for things that don't go right in your business. And I'm like, okay, I still have to have that mindset, like in some ways that the buck stops with me in every single way. But the idea of all this work, and as a solopreneur, we're doing all the things, but yet we stay away from the one thing that actually can put gasoline on the spark that we're trying to make. And I get it. I know why. I have lost a lot of money on ads. I just don't think there's a lot out there about really, truly the mindset and the skill and the potential of doing paid ads in little bits and pieces that's not scary and that can actually grow you so much faster and without spending hours and hours and hours trying to just do all this organic content.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned this. There's people out there who say, oh, you should test everything organically first before you ever jump into paid ads. And the thing is, the only people I hear say that are people who are selling these courses on how to do the networking prospecting, where you're joining Facebook groups, you're spamming out friend requests, and then your inbox gets flooded with messages of people of, hey, I saw that we both have dogs, and I thought that would be a great way to connect. And it's like they find the weirdest thing that they have in common with you so that they can connect. And then when the pitch is coming, it's like, just get to the point so I can block you, right?
Exactly. It's like, it feels like the MLM strategy to me, when people are just like pushing and pushing a product, I've actually responded to people. I'm like, whoever is telling you that this is an effective strategy is wrong. Let me just give you a little piece of advice. It's not going to work for you. And I think we just assume that we can do this with organic, but I have no issue. I mean, think about it. $5 a day, $10 a day is nothing, and it could do so much more
You reach
for you.
thousands of people. You can reach thousands of people for
And the
5 or 10
right
bucks a day.
people, the absolute right people. And I think that's what's so important. You could go viral, and I just had this happen to a health coach, like a total viral content of like frying eggs. But it had really nothing to really do with what they were teaching. They just took a course on how to get your content viral. So they got a bunch of followers, but none of them are their ideal audience. And as they were trying to then deal with the influx of people that came in asking for their free thing, none of them were their ideal audience. And I thought, what if you could have put some money behind an ad that actually was targeting the people you want in front of you? And that's key. The concept sounds great, but then it's actually implementing it that's the issue. And I don't have tens of thousands of followers. I didn't need to do that in order to build this really successful business, because I'm just targeting the right people and doing kind of asking them to do something very specific. And it isn't necessarily following me.
Well, and the thing is, all that time you put into producing the organic content, all the time you put into DMing strangers and getting unfriended and blocked, if you took that time and just did a side hustle of maybe retail arbitrage or donating plasma or something, so you have some money to put into paid ads, your time would be, I think, much better spent. So I'm sure people are wondering, well, what is this ad strategy? Because here's the thing. Ever since I started doing Facebook ads, people have been complaining about, Facebook ads cost so much, and getting crap leads and all this stuff. And people have been complaining about this forever. Yet there's still people who are crushing it like you are. How did you get started? Because I think that's an interesting story. How did you get started with Facebook ads?
Yeah, because I will tell you right now, in the last 6 months, I've now gotten a 90-to-1 return on ad spend, when in the past 5 years before that, it was a 2.4 ROAS. That's insane. And so, now it's just math. If I'm gonna put in $1 and get 90, I will do that all day long. There's no budget then, right? The budget really aligns with, like, how much I can handle in terms of work. And in our coaching program, we're very, very kind of niche and boutique, so we don't take hundreds of clients at once. But if we backtrack to 2020, when I started ads, actually the end of 2019, I have hired more than 3.5 agencies. And I say 3.5 because I went halfway with my last one, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I loved everybody that I worked with. And so I can't say that there was a person that was trying to scam me or anything, but just think about it. In order for an agency to make any money, they have to have a lot of clients, and they have to have their eyes on a lot of different strategies and ads and things like that. So the first 2 agencies that I worked with were very prescriptive about my ad strategy. It was like, this is the way we do it. I was like, okay, because I thought that running ads was like the Wizard of Oz. It was a wizard that knew all the things, and I didn't have any right or knowledge base to be able to go there. And I just trusted. And so we did some strategies that, just as I look back, oh my gosh. And it cost me at the start $5,000 a month to work with my agencies. And you can go from 5,000 to 10,000 and even more, depending on what what your contract is. And then I had to have an ad budget. We would ramp up, but I pretty much had an average ad budget of $30,000 to $40,000 a month. And for a relatively small nutrition coaching business, that is a lot. You have to get every single piece of the puzzle right, from your messaging, copy, the audience, and making sure you're testing. But then you get the people in your funnel, and then you got to make sure all the stuff on that side after they opt in is solid. And then if you can get them on a call, then your sales team has to close. So when we weren't either getting leads or we felt like they weren't the right leads or we weren't closing, there were so many variables me as a solopreneur had to dig into that my agency just didn't have the bandwidth to figure out. And on top of it all, testing meant they had to pull triggers and push buttons a lot and keep their eyeballs on it. And it was just very coincidental that we'd go a period of time and we weren't getting calls booked. And I was like, guys, what is going on? And then all of a sudden calls would get booked. And it was like every time I became a squeaky wheel, suddenly we'd get calls booked. And we kind of had just basically one, maybe two ad campaigns going. And that was the problem because we were constantly going to a webinar to book a call. Those are very expensive ads. And when I say 3.5 agencies over 5 years, that was each one of their processes. And if I wanted to do any additional like retargeting kinds of things, that was just going to cost me more money. I couldn't make the math make sense. And so a 2.4 ROAS, when you have a whole bunch of two people on your team, means you're not really making any money.
And I think a lot of people don't realize how much a good agency actually costs. I actually just had a coaching client come to us and we were helping her through her ads and she's having some problems setting up her ad manager and all that. And she's saying, can't I just hire somebody to do this? Like, how much is it to hire an agency? And I'm like, on the very, very cheap end, you maybe $1,000 to $2,500 a month.
And I don't know what you're getting for that.
Yeah. And then you have to pay for the ad spend on top of that. And she's like, oh, I had no idea. No way. That's
right.
Yeah.
And this is the problem, right? And then everybody thinks it's the Wizard of Oz and they have all the answers and we can't possibly know it. And so what I ended up doing is in January 2024, I thought I was total boss babe. And I brought somebody in to train my marketing director. And I'm like, we're going to bring ads in-house. I paid $30,000 for her to train my marketing director. And it was fabulous. I mean, last February, we had like our best month up until that point. And I'm like, oh, we're crushing this. Oh my gosh, we know, like, look at me. To be honest with you, didn't even know how to log into Meta. That's terrible. And one of my business coaches was like, Carrie, you need to know where the bodies are buried. I'm like, yeah. Honestly, I didn't feel like I had the skill set to do that. It's scary. And everybody acts like it's like this thing that like very fragile and you can screw it up if you touch it. So I didn't want to screw anything up. I hired my marketing director and we did really well until we didn't. And we didn't really know what to do. And we were still running the same funnels that my ad agencies were telling me to run. And we did a few webinars here and there, just like live webinars. And those would convert pretty well, but they were still expensive for us. It still wasn't really worth it. Like I had a one-day webinar. I spent $25,000 in ads and I made $65,000. So, okay. But still, once you're paying commissions and all the things, it doesn't add up to very much, right? So, but I really did think, okay, we've got this. We can do this ourselves until the ads didn't perform that well. And she didn't know what to do. And she was stressed about telling me and didn't want me to have to pay for the consultant to come back in again. And so she quit. She quit August 8th, 2024. It's a day that goes down. And I was like, I have to shut down. I can't do this. Like, how was it that our one real lead technique, because let me be honest, over the last 5 years, I didn't have to do like going into Facebook groups and posting. I got kind of lazy because, we were getting leads and we weren't losing money. I just wasn't very profitable, but I just figured it was a matter of scaling and then when she quit, I was like, I don't know what to do. And so I had this one consultant, she did some marketing stuff for her. I remember she was on the West Coast and I was on the East Coast and it was midnight. And I was on a family vacation. I had to hide in the bathroom because we were in this tiny little cabin. My kids were sleeping and I call her, it was 9:00 at night. And I'm like, I think I have to shut down. And she said, Carrie, we will figure this out. And sometimes you just need that person that's going to like take you off the edge and off the cliff. And so I didn't know what that meant, but I went and interviewed more agencies. Right? Because, all right, this didn't work for me to do it in-house. And we become like black and white. Well, I tried that. That didn't work. But as I have learned, there's always a next move. And there was something around these agencies that it didn't feel right to again, source it out, spend all sorts of money. I'm like, what am I doing that's actually any different than what I've done before? So I came across a coach who very much believes, and she really works with female entrepreneurs. She's like, Entrepreneurs should know how to run ads. They should understand it. Yes, they can have people in-house to do it, but they don't need expensive agencies. They don't need expensive software. The software, by the way, was costing me $4,000 to $5,000 a month to be able to track my ads on top of it all, right? And that with some knowledge and a good strategy, you could actually crush it, be profitable, and bringing everything in-house. So it was like this belief that I didn't know existed that I could do this. But it was really funny because August 8th, right, was this day she quit. And that following week, I went to an event and Brendan Burchard was there speaking. And he said, don't blame other people, because I was blaming her, right? And I wrote myself a note that said, ads, I can't do it. I'm not smart enough. And I look back on that note and I think, hang on a second. I am 50 years old. I have built multiple seven-figure businesses over my career. I have raised two amazing women. I have a business where I have impacted thousands of lives. And I think I can't run ads, And it was just a shift of like, what are the things that I've convinced myself, a story I've told myself. And I hear so many entrepreneurs, the ones I coach, I'm in different masterminds, and they all think the same thing. The ads are scary. I'm going to lose my shirt. I have to hire somebody to do it. And once I believed in myself and I was like, we can do this, Kayla and I just decided we were going to dig in. And what we did is a strategy that's around a dryer. Think about the dryer and it's like tumbling your clothes and it's like kind of, going around and around and around. And especially in my industry, there's so much skepticism. There's so much disbelief. There's so much like, I've tried this and it didn't quote unquote work. And I needed to build that trust factor with people, but also I needed to get people into my funnel cheaper and then do things with them that were going to be really effective. So we have a bunch of different ad campaigns now that are very, very low priced. I'm averaging about $3,000 a month in ads. And in February, with a $3,000 ad budget, we brought in $200,000. We're just putting people through this funnel. So we have a few different campaigns and ads. We do have an opt-in, right? Like kind of a value, a free value kind of a thing. But we're making sure we're building it behind a 3-day challenge, a 5-day challenge, a 1-hour webinar. And we've gotten really clear on our messaging and recognizing that we can get people in front of us over and over and over again. So when we're marketing our 5-day, 3-day, or 1-hour webinars or challenges, they've seen me a whole bunch of times. So our ad strategy is looking at some of our Instagram posts and how do we don't boost them, but we use a target audience to repost those and ensure that they are getting in front of the right people. It's amazing because that's super cheap. And there's not a huge call. There's no real call to action, like the post, that kind of thing. We launch ads only to our email list. So when people come into our funnel, we will do ads just to that. We use ActiveCampaign for our email service provider. So we have an automation that is in real time, always updating our email list with our Facebook audience. And so only those people are getting some retargeting ads. And a lot of the times it's just good content. So you take that one Instagram post that you have been slaving over and trying to get viral, and you bring that to the audience and they see that a bunch of times. Now you know that one post is getting to a bunch of people. There's a lot more likes, there's a lot more views. Instagram then likes to show it more often, and you have spent $5 a day maybe to do that. And it's amazing. And so we have a lot of different things that are just low budget, no big call to action. And then what I can do is I can look at those people that have engaged in any of those posts. Maybe they watched 25% of a video, and then I can bring them into a different audience. Think about it like dating. And this is what my ads coach was telling me. Because we talk about like top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of funnel. And that never has translated to me that well. Like, it's not everyday speak. And the coaches that I coach, the new ones that were like me that had no idea what they were doing, that language doesn't translate either. But if you talk about dating, not that I've dated in 30 years, but think about it. Like when you first meet somebody, you're not asking them to marry you, right? you're just getting to know them. They're just getting to know you. So, like, you're on your best behavior. And then the retargeting is really around maybe you're asking them out on a date or you're getting to know each other a little bit more, but you're not doing any real hard asks. And those can be so inexpensive. And then you're ready to actually ask them out or maybe marry them by asking them to go to a webinar or a live challenge. So our people have seen us a whole lot before we do a live challenge, but it hasn't cost me that much money. And they are so warm and ready when they get in there. And now our webinar ads are like from 1 hour to 5-day challenges are costing us about $1.50 a lead.
Wow. Holy
I
cow.
know. Isn't that crazy?
Back in 2017 and then 2018, the end of 2017 going into 2018, that's when we launched our first online course, and we used paid ads to get registrants for that. And we were paying about like the very lowest was $250 per lead.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and that was really good back then. And probably on average, I'd say $4 per lead. And back then, people were saying, "Oh my goodness, how are you doing that?" We didn't realize that was kind of, but you're getting $1.50
Yeah,
now in
last
2025.
3 events that we got, we were $1.50. But I will say when we first started doing things ourselves, it was like 6 something a lead. You know what I mean? But this is the thing with ads, you need time to let things warm up, right? It's like my tea water. I can't just put it on and expect hot water. I have to put it on and let it warm up. Ads are like that. And if you are the one behind the curtain, then you can look at it and you can see what's going on. And that's what's so powerful. I know where the bodies are buried now. Kayla's really pushing all the buttons, but I can get behind the curtain. It's no longer a wizard like the Wizard of Oz. We'll never, 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 never hire out for this again. The math does not math. And it never will, really.
So you went from 30,000 a month to 40,000 a month in ad spend, plus the 5,000 or so for the agency.
Plus Hyros. Don't get me
Plus
started.
Hyros, yeah.
I paid for
And
Hyros.
I've heard great things about that software, but
I agree. I think some people are going to be like, no, you need Hyros. And I'm like, you know, I don't disagree that some of the data that you can get is really good. But one of the things my coach said is if you can do this right and well, doesn't Facebook want you to be like successful and want to give you data that you can use? There are limitations to it without a doubt. And I'm not saying I'll never use it, but we just don't need it right now. So I'm holding off as long as I can. But Hyros does give you data. But so now, I mean, it's the ROAS now. So it's like somebody once said to me, some social media guy that wanted me to hire him because he was going to promise me I was going to go viral. And he's like, "Oh, how much are you spending on ads?" And at the time I was like, "Why are you asking me how much I'm spending on ads? Because in all reality, it's how much am I making based on my ads." So I actually was just meeting with a guy who I'm partnering with on some work, and he used to run Nectar mattresses and the ads for that. And they had done $300 million in ads annually. And everybody's like freaking out about that. But he's like, he was doing the same thing we're doing. It's this gradual release of making sure the math, because then it's just literally a math equation. 2 + 2 = 4 once you get things right. Now, for us in our industry, June is a terrible month. January, February are amazing months. And so once I have a year of data behind me, then I'm like, the budget really just is dependent on what we can handle as a team for delivery. So as long as your ROAS is going in the right direction, then you can scale.
yeah. So this ad strategy, you're retargeting people who are already on your email list, and you're retargeting them with just content that's doing well on Instagram. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's not just our email list, but it's our email list, our Instagram list, as well as anybody that's been to our website. So we make sure we have our pixels everywhere. And those pixels are like your little fingerprint. Facebook gives you, or Meta gives you your pixel to put on all of on your pages. And so anybody that's been to our website, on our email list, on our Instagram, or, following us in some way. And so this becomes this like little spider web. And we're continuing to map this out. It's like these if-then statements, right? If they're doing this, and we're going to show them this. And if they do that, we're going to show them that. And then we just keep engaging them in these mini content kind of strategies, because it's exactly the same thing we're trying to do organically. We post and pray that it clicks into the algorithm and that it goes viral. But what happens is, one, the chances of that are very low. But two, and most importantly, they're not in front of the right people. So now we don't have to post and pray. We can post and then look at data to be like, what's happening? One of the things that we do are dynamic creatives. So when you do an ad set and then you put your ad in, we'll do 5 videos. They all have to be the same type of post, all videos, all carousels, all static. One of those, right? We can't mix and match. But a dynamic creative puts, let's say, 5 videos in there, and then Facebook or Instagram will test all those out and then pull out the couple that do the best for you. And then that's been really powerful because then we can really see which ones are doing well. We can add more and test more. There's just hardcore data. And if I was doing $5 or $10 a day, I can still get a ton of data out of that. And think about $10 a day over a month. Like I said, you could drive Uber Eats and get that paid for with no problem, right? And we have a few of those little strategies. So then when you're ready to actually put something in place that's like, hey, why haven't you called me yet? Why haven't you booked a call yet? Or hey, send me a message, or hey, whatever your real call to action is, you are going to get so many more people because they've seen you a bunch of times and it hasn't cost you a ton of money to do that. And I just haven't had an agency that's done that for me before, that was willing to do that for me before, or that was going to be able to really monitor it the way we needed to. And we're not talking about sitting there monitoring 24/7. You're just checking in each day like you check in your email. The bottom line is it's much simpler than we realize.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, like every other agency out there, and the reason why they do this is I think they all learn from the same people about how to run ads for coaches, is that application funnel of ad to VSL or ad to webinar and then book a call, and then you expect somebody to drop $5,000 or $10,000 on your program. There may have been a time where that worked really well, but I haven't heard anybody who's doing really well with that anymore, because even the people who book calls, they no-show. Like it's a 90% no-show rate on the people who book calls from that, because like I said, there's no familiarity there. There's no like and trust factor. And right now in the coaching industry, that is the big missing factor, is that trust and that familiarity. And when you can build that.
My team closes at 75 to 80%. And actually for our 5-day challenge, we closed at 93%.
Have you
And
thought about raising your prices? Like,
yeah, I mean, we did. But also, like, I want to make sure that a certain type of person is able to take advantage of our program. And if I raise them much more, then they're not going to be able to have that. But those are after our 5-day challenges, 3-day or 1 hour webinars. When we go right and we do some retargeting to go right to book a call, we do still have some of those ads running because we're always playing with that and trying it. They're definitely colder. But I will tell you, our show up rate is actually really pretty good. And I think that there's 2 reasons for it. Again, there are very few people that are coming in cold to our funnel anymore. Very, very few. And that has made all the difference in a show up rate. But when I talk about it costs me dollars to get in front of people so that they kind of book a call. But also, if they've booked a call, I can put that audience right into an ad, and I can have ads reminding them about who we are and what we do and why what we do is so different. Right. So that's one piece. And then the other thing is one tool that we use is called Video Ask. I was taught, I learned this tool, a little while ago, and I really did it for testimonials. So Video Ask is this great survey type back and forth where I can ask a question on video and then they can respond back to me in video. That's our survey to bring people in. So when they do a survey before booking a call, it's a Video Ask. They can type some of their responses, but the real one is like, hey, tell us what's going on with you. You can respond back in text. We're all about relationships here. And I really want you to respond back in audio or video if you're brave enough to do it. Right. And then we ask them about finances, and it's me talking. So I can actually like share my heart and my messaging versus like just a survey that seems like what everybody else does. But then my sales team responds back to them in Video Ask. And sometimes I jump in and respond back to them in Video Ask. So before they have that call, there's been actual back and forth with the potential client. And so we get, even in those colder kinds of things, still a 70% show up rate. And we don't do setters. Like that's kind of our virtual setter, if you will. We've done setters before, and it was a whole nother team I had to manage. And because I work with so many brand new entrepreneurs, I really love to give them systems like they can afford video ask. They can afford to do some ads, even ads just to follow them. That's the first set of ads I train my brand new health coaches to do, just a follow me ad, where it's a story, it's a video, and they set up their ads. They can do $5 a day. But I'm like, let's do $10 a day. It's costing me $300 a month. And they can get their Instagram growing, but it's not like I paid for followers. It's like I paid to get in front of the right people, and those people that are hearing my message, they're following me. And then if it's not quote unquote working as well as we want, then we look at our Instagram and say, okay, what is about our Instagram landing page, if you will, that's not getting them to follow me? But it's a really great first step to paid ads. That's really not that scary.
Okay, so I was about to ask about that is how are you getting people into your email list or following you on Instagram or visiting your website? How do you get them there in the first place so that you can retarget them later? Is it mostly through that ad, or is there other ways that you're creating that audience to retarget?
I'm training people, if they have an email list, to upload their email list and their followers. And Meta makes it so easy to do that. And then if you have 200 people, you could start forming lookalike audiences. And so if you're starting to then form lookalike audiences, you just got to get your first 200, then you can start doing lookalike. But if you need to get to that 200, we start just building an audience based on the type of person you think would come into your world and buy from you. All of this is like learning. And now that I know where the bodies are buried, I can speak to it. It's like we were like, okay, my person shops at Whole Foods, they go to Athleta, follow Mel Robbins. Like I had 50 different criteria. And it was just like, it was too many things because you actually don't even know what's working. So it's about finding that demographic in terms of age and gender, and then finding a couple of maybe 2 or 3 defining factors, and then building a couple of audiences like that. And every agency I've ever done has all built it into one audience with many different types of attributes. And I've learned now if I take it out and I get really just smaller in that, then I can actually see what's working.
Okay, so for people who don't have a big email list or a website with a bunch of visitors, we're doing these ads. And is it only on Instagram, or are you showing this on Facebook too?
It might as well. I mean, we do it on Facebook because Meta makes it so easy. You do have to have a Facebook business page in order to run ads. I think that's one thing that people need to know. So you don't have to post on Facebook business. Like a lot of the people on your page, a lot of the people that I work with don't. They just do Instagram. My audience is on Facebook a lot because I work with 40, 50, 60-year-olds, and a lot of them are on Facebook. So we run ads to both. Depends on your audience. But I think Instagram is definitely the platform that you start with, but you do need a Facebook business page to be able to set up Ads Manager. And it's not that hard to set up Ads Manager. Again, like Facebook wants you to actually be successful. So they walk you through it step by step by step. So it's not super crazy.
So if you're running these in Facebook, are you asking them to follow your business page?
Yes, we won't send them off the Facebook platform into Instagram, especially because they probably don't have it. So we'll ask them to follow us, or we'll set up a ManyChat. And for those people that don't know ManyChat, like it's a great tool, although I think too many people have relied too much on it. So ManyChat allows you to automate your messages, right? So it's like comment, like today we did one, comment busy, and we'll send you the training for busy moms, right? It's so easy to do that for free. And again, like super, super simple. So a lot of times, especially on Facebook, we'll do that so we can get into their messenger and then reply back to them. But we do the very first message automated, and then we respond personally after that. I like the automated message right away in case it's 3:00 in the morning. But I think after that, people are too aware of bots.
So even in that first video, are you giving a call to action to say,
Our first call to action is often to follow, or if it's going into Facebook, it will often be to message something, just because the follows on Facebook just don't. But it doesn't really matter. You could do the same messaging for both because it's not really about that. It's about the fact that they clicked and now they become part of that audience. for future retargeting. And you don't have to get their email address. And I think that's a really big thing to remember. It's always been like, get their email, get their email, get their email. But because of the way that Meta works, if they click on something, they now are targeted as somebody that's engaged with your content. That's huge. And especially because these days emails, as much as email is still king, people don't see your emails. And so when we do our campaigns, any email campaign, we also parallel it with an ad with the same exact messaging just to our email list, because I know they're going to see it. I mean, right now, like my iPhone's got 4 different categories of emails, right? And we're going to fall in the promo category. And so they're not going to open it. And so our email open rates are miserably low, but we parallel every email campaign with a low ad just to my email list.
So these initial video ads that you're putting out there, what's the campaign objective for that? Because there's a lot of different, you could do video views, you could do engagement, you could, there's a bunch of different things. What are you doing as far as objective?
Yeah. So for that first one where it's like, we just want to meet, there's a couple of things. One will be visiting our Instagram page. That's like, if that's like a follow me campaign kind of a thing. Another one is just engagement. So we can measure 25% of a video that gets watched. And then another one will be like, a lot of times we'll do, not really on the top though, not really on the dating one, but we will do visited a certain page, like, landing page or whatever. But that's usually more on either the retargeting, and the retargeting goals are a little bit different depending on what we're doing, because some of them are simply like comment, share a story that you have, or just a very, 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 very light call to action. But what's so great about it is that you don't even have to have a call to action. They just watch your content. And so that will often be a goal of ours, is engagement.
Okay. So just people who watch a certain portion of the content, they get put into another audience that you retarget.
Yes, exactly. And then by the time they're ready to date or to get married, we do a couple of things. One is usually the 5-day, 3-day, or 1-hour webinar. And if they have gone to those and they still have not booked a call with us, then I send them an actual, hey, you've been hanging out with me for a while now.
Yeah, I see
Right.
you. Yeah.
And I see you, and let's get on a call. Let's talk. Right. But that is not coming until somebody has engaged with us a whole bunch of times. And then my cost per call are so much lower. My cost per calls sometimes could be $800. Now they're, 60 to 100 maybe. And that's only for those ads. When we talk about our webinars, we're like $8.
And then you're closing, 50, 70%.
On the webinar ones, we're closing 70, right? The last 3 months, we've averaged 73% close rate. On our colder ones that are not coming through necessarily a direct webinar, but a retargeting VSL kind of evergreen webinar, we're closing lower at that, but it's never below 40%. So 40 to 50% probably on those, but it depends on my closer. And that's the biggest thing, right? Like the closing team. So I have a closer that closes at about 60% on everything, and then another one that's at about 40 on the evergreen.
This strategy, like you said, all you're doing is you're mimicking what you're trying to do organically. And that's what I really love about this. I imagine that as people move up into those audiences, after they've engaged with the first one, then they engage with the second ad, is your ad spend budget or is your ad budget for those higher level campaigns, are those smaller, or how much are you spending on each level here?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I say that this is sort of like a fine wine. It gets better over time. I joke about that about my nutritional approach too, because we don't teach calories in or calories out or tracking. We teach blood sugar stabilization. And the longer you do it, the better your body reacts. And it's sort of like that with ads. So because, it's really been the last year, a little over a year that I've been doing ads in-house, and 6 months since we've really done this strategy, you're going to have to bring me back on as I share more and more about this fine wine kind of spending time. Our regular budget is in the let's get to know each other kinds of stuff. And then I will throw in extra money for our webinar, for our events. And really, I don't have necessarily a budget for that. But as I'm going through this first year and really testing this out along with the time of year, I am a little bit conservative. But it's that last set of ads that you were just saying, like book a call with us. That's actually my lowest budget item, but they're the ones that cost me the most. So until I get those really, really dialed in, I'm more conservative on those. But I'm ready to boost those up as long as my team can convert. I'd rather spend a little bit more money on the front and the webinars if I'm getting $1.50 a lead on webinars and we're closing at 73%. And a 5-day challenge, we closed at 90%. That's crazy. We also did a really great strategy for scholarships. So I'll just share that with you really quick because this was game changing. Because I was stuck in this cycle with my agencies and then with the woman that quit, I was always behind. Like I put my ads on my credit card and then I'd bring in cash and then I had to pay the credit card. And it was like this terrible cycle of like, I can't not do ads this month because I got to pay I got to use the cash that I'm bringing in to pay the credit cards the next month. So we did something called a scholarship, and it's one of the most amazing, beautiful campaigns I've ever done that just touches all of our hearts. But I announced that I'm giving away one free scholarship and they have to apply. And it was the first time we did it. We got in about, I don't know, it was like 300 applications with these beautiful stories of these women who have been following me for a long time. We got tons of data, like anecdotal around how many people have been listening to my podcast or following us and things like that. And then we chose a winner of our, and they knew the value of what we teach because we said the value is $9,000. And so everybody that applied knew that. And so we chose one winner and then we went through applications and then decided we were giving away partial scholarships. And so we then had hundreds of people that were on our list, became, they were, I shouldn't say this. We only said that's to our list. So it wasn't like these were new people, but they got really reinvigorated and re-energized. And we ran ads just to our list for the scholarship. We didn't want any cold people at all coming into the scholarship. And we ended up giving away so many partial scholarships. That one campaign that we did, we spent $1,000 on ads and we made $60,000. And then we did that in March for my 50th birthday, and we spent $2,000 in ads, and we made $100,000. And so that was an unbelievable strategy that we'll do twice a year.
Okay, so you have one winner, and then is everybody else who applies getting a partial scholarship? Or
Well, we are looking at all of the applications, and there has to be some effort put into it, but we're sending out a message to everybody, like everybody that has qualified and said, you've qualified for a partial scholarship. Remember, they know the price of the full. Right. So we're like, and you have to get on a call to be able to talk through it. And they do get a really beautiful, beautiful deal because there's so much volume. We do really, really well with that. So that was another strategy and it's so much fun. I mean, people are just like, have followed me for years and years that haven't been able to work with us. And then they can. And sometimes it's just a matter of getting them on a call, which is just a scary thing in and of itself. So once you get somebody on a call and they can see the value of what you do and how you can really help them, then you can close even if they felt like they didn't have the money to afford.
There's so many things about this that I really like. One of the things that I was going to mention just really quick here is this idea of just retargeting video views where there doesn't necessarily need to be any engagement. The reason I like that is because there's so many people who are the buyers who just don't engage. They don't comment, they don't opt into things, but they're there. They're ready to make a move, but they're not engaging.
They're the lurkers. The lurkers.
And you're reaching them with these ads and they're progressing through your funnel. They don't even know it, but they're progressing through your funnel.
And we're not doing this traditional funnel that I did for the first 5 years, 7 years in my business, where it was like you get them in and then you're just sending them email. Yes, we send them emails, but we're actually engaging with them through the social media platform that we're actually just, our only strategy is post and pray, right? And it all connects into this amazing machine with gears and cogs and wheels that are all working together to be able to get people through.
So for somebody who's completely new and they're wondering, well, how much ad budget should I put aside for something like this? What do you typically recommend for someone who's just getting started? How much should they set aside to run this ad strategy that you're teaching?
$10 a day.
$10 a day.
To start. Yep, that's it. And what a difference that is because it's so scary, right? And people are like, I go to Starbucks for $10 a day. Like I can do that. And then you start to get your data, right? And then and this is how that mattress company I was telling you about, they went up to $300 million a year. They didn't start that way. They didn't have an ad budget like that. It was small, but it was building upon each other in the dryer strategy. And how am I going to keep them in the dryer so they're tumbling and tumbling and tumbling? And just that visual helps you to understand it. And like we have a huge whiteboard in our office that just maps out all these different things. And we keep adding to it and adding to it and adding to it, because once we see that, the dryer's kind of tumbling people through, how can we keep adding more ways for them to know, like, and trust us? That's not going to cost us a ton of money, but it pays off in dividends later.
Carrie, this has been such an amazing conversation. I'd love to talk to you for a whole nother hour about this because I love the ad game, and it can be so powerful for a business to grow and scale to multiple 6 figures, 7 figures, and do it quickly. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are at this point really interested in learning more about what you do and how you do it. If people want to connect with you, get a hold of you, maybe check out some of your training, how can they connect with you?
Yeah. So, my favorite tool is to go to Instagram. So Carrie_Lupoli is my Instagram. I actually go live every single morning because I know that morning time to reset, realign, and to really set your intentions are so important. So every morning I go live, which has been a huge lift, but not as much of a lift as having to create social media content every single day that you have to edit and get right. And so if you go there and then we connect, I have a variety of different things that I share with my newbie coaches that I'm happy to share. So go follow me on Instagram and then message me and I'll lead you to the right direction. And you won't get a bot, you'll get me.
Awesome. Carrie, thank you so much for being with us and sharing all this amazing information. I really appreciated having you on the podcast today.
Thank you. I'm finally not afraid of ads and I can share it and it's refreshing.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.